Hey everyone. So I'm going to try to condense this as best as I can because I do have a lot to say. Anyways, so I'm going to be talking of course about the championship in the March Madness side of the women's with the LSU Tigers winning it all. And before I get too far ahead, I get annoyed with all these comments saying stuff like, oh, you don't come on here and talk about things until after the fact. But this is a team that we had an advance on my Patreon of future. Let's put them down, especially when it came down to the Sweet 16. And I'm not gonna lie, because I even mentioned it in my last video how initially I was looking at Indiana Hoosiers, but they got out. But once they got out, I was all LSU the rest of the way. And just to show and prove that is just showing that I placed my bet on them back on the 24th of March, and the championship was obviously yesterday, April 2nd. So, all right, so getting back to it. A lot of things added up, to make me look at this team, but it all started pretty much with Kim Mulkey and just knowing her history. She coached for Baylor for, 21 years, and then she decided to move on to LSU. That's where her home is. She's not born in Louisiana, but considers herself to be a Louisiana girl because that's where she lived for most of her life. She played for Louisiana Tech. Got to show this. She played for Louisiana Tech from 1980 to 84. And I got to show you this, that Louisiana Tech was the very first champions of the NCAA tournament in the women's side. So she was part of the first championship team ever, and that was in 1982. And just to show too, I don't know if it's actually listed on here, but that was 41 years ago. And, this championship this year was held in Dallas, equating to 41. And just such a mockery because this was the 41st NCAA tournament. But anyways, so getting back to this, a lot to say about all these players. A lot of them are transfer students this year to play for Mulkey, including Alexis Morris, Angel Reese, and I can't name everyone because I'm not sure, but I know there was 9 transfers this season. So, what a way to just compact your team and get them all ready to, it was just interesting how it all went together. But I want to talk about, what was her name? Flau'jae Johnson right here, number 4, and how she wears the number 4 chain. She wore this in several interviews too. That was interesting. And me knowing about Kim Mulkey, she's 3-0 in the title championships, in the NCAA championships. And, seeing that she had a chance at her 4th, and then this girl just seems so significant with Mulkey, and she's only a freshman. And anyway, so that's why that 4 is right there and standing out so much, just to represent how Kim Mulkey got her 4th championship. And a couple things I want to talk about real quick is this was a little tweet or something put out by the SEC before the game, showing all the teams that the Tigers beat leading up to the championship, and this is all just in the tournament. So one thing I had my eyes on was just seeing what their seed numbers were and totaling them up to see what it came out to. And if you total them up, you have 14, 6, 2, 9, 1, and 2, and it adds up to the number 34. And before I get too far into 34, one thing that was interesting about this phrase right here, God did, that was something that their devotional speaker on their team, what was her name, Kim Cash Tate, that was her phrase that her and the girls always used. And you'd often hear the girls say that term in their pre-game, after-game interviews. So just seeing that added up to 34, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But then you go on and you're talking about Angel Reese here, one of the transfers from Maryland. She ends up getting her 34th double-double in the championship game yesterday, right? So she gets her 34th, while, the LSU Tigers pick up their 34th win of the season, becoming 34-2. And they played against the perfect team too, because Iowa Hawkeyes equals 34, and LSU wears the color purple, and they were all a black team. The whole team was black, right? So I'm going to talk about race in this because if you were paying attention and Gematria and you were watching any of the game, all these numbers were hitting. I'm they just kept popping up. I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting this, but then that's when I realized it was an all black versus white team. Anyway, so seeing that LSU wears purple and purple equals 34, like the word black equals 34, how the Tigers picked up their 34th win of the season and Iowa got their 29th NCAA loss. Purple equals 29 and black equals 29. Anyways, and so just talking about the color purple and how right here they have her Angel Reese listed as the double queen, and she's wearing a crown in all these pictures. You got to talk about the queen that just died too, back on September 8th, 2022. And, you know, from that date to yesterday's championship date, April 2nd, was exactly 206 days difference. And March Madness equals 206, which looks a lot like 26, right? Dropping that 0. And, you know, talking about queen equals 26. I want to talk about too the Las Vegas Aces, how they just won the WNBA finals this past year, exactly 10 days after the queen died. The finals concluded on September 18th. Again, the queen died on September 8th, so that's 10 days difference. And you had the Aces win. Aces equals 26 and 10 days after the queen dies. And, you know, thinking about aces, out of all the teams in the WNBA, which one represents royalty the most, right? The queen, the king, jack, aces. All right. And then seeing aces even has the 26. Well, the WNBA last season, that was their 26th season of the WNBA's existence. So, I mean, that was put together really well. So, I mean, that's why I had to look at the queen's alignment to, of course, this tournament. And what do you know? But anyways, and one other thing, obviously, talking about royalty and the color purple. Purple represents royalty, king or queen. So, yeah, can't leave that out. And then here, this is after the game that was tweeted out. And, you know, just checking them all off. And then they piece it together like a puzzle right here. It's literally a puzzle, just showing you like how this all is a puzzle and how we're putting it together, and just a mockery. Anyways, so this right here too, huge clue of why I liked LSU is because thankfully, you know, I got some history with me knowing basketball, and this was like back in my day when I was really in tune with basketball. I mean, Simone Augustus is older than me, but I mean, she was a player that I often saw on the court in her college days. You know, like I had my favorite players back then too. But so we got Simone Augustus, who used to play for LSU, and, you know, they call her Money Moan, and she made me some money for sure. But Money Moan also carries the 34. Gotta include that. But just looking at her, oh my goodness. Okay, so much to talk about. So where do I start? Her full name, Simone Delicia Augustus, equates to 342. And LSU ended their season 34-2. So once I saw that possibility, I mean, it just made a lot of sense, because there's more I'm going to talk about with her. But I just have to play this now. Let me see. This is after the game, after they're getting their trophy and everything. But I want you to listen to what Holly Rose says, because she calls out Simone, who was in attendance to this game, which we figured because she was also at the Final Four. Simone Augustus was, I think, a part of 4 of LSU's Final Fours. LSU Tigers, men or women, had never been into the championship, never been past Final Four. So, I mean, this was huge, and anyways, see if you can hear her. Hopefully you can.
I think it's so cool because Simone Augustus, who helped put this program on the map, is here watching tonight. She helped build part of this foundation. We see you, Simone. This is for you. And these women...
All right, we see you, Simone. This one's for you. Damn right it was for her, and we nailed it. All right, so we saw that, and, you know, I titled it on my Patreon. It's like, we already knew, even before they had to put that video out. You know, that was just even more confirmation. But, all right, so talking about Simone, and I guess I finally put the winning final score here, 102 to 85. One thing too that did stand out to me, just because this was the first year that the tournament was put on by Capital One, and just seeing that Simone went to Capital High School, and of course she's a homegrown Baton Rouge, from Baton Rouge. And then I want you to focus on her birthday too, April 30th, and she's the age of 38. Okay, April 30th. That's important, but I guess I didn't put it down until down here. Let me just go ahead and skip a bit. But I want to point out that Louisiana statehood was admitted as a state on April 30th. And in Gematria, in the most pure cipher, Louisiana equates to 38, just like how she's 38 years old, born on the perfect date for Louisiana. You had this picture put out of, they captioned it, a championship for the state of Louisiana. How perfect. And then talking about Kim Mulkey too, and how she went back home to Louisiana. I got to show that yesterday, the championship date to her upcoming birthday was a span of 46 days difference, like March Madness equals 46, but she'll be turning 61 years old. And just like Louisiana in reverse also equates to 61. So, but anyways, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but I gotta show you that another reason I had Simone on my mind was because earlier this year, she had a statue put up for her at LSU. And that statue came out to be from Kim Mulkey. Kim Mulkey, in her first year at LSU, she said how she thinks Simone Augustus deserves a statue. So you got this new coach who never even coached Simone Augustus. They played against each other, I think, in a couple of games from what I read. But, just perfect ties. And so she gets a statue put up this year, and she gets the LSU Tigers to get her name gematria record. I mean, what an honor, right? Anyways, so you have Simone Augustus. I wanted to point out that statue was unveiled on January 15th, January 15th being Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And, just significant, just talking about Black history and everything that we'll get more into. So yeah, you got Kim Mulkey and Simone Augustus having, their ages of the same as Louisiana, let alone the same birthday. But one other thing I got to point out too is with talking about April 30th, Simone's birthday, or the state of Louisiana's birthday, to the championship date was exactly 337 days, where 337 is the 68th prime number. And basketball equals 68, just like how there's 68 teams in the NCAA tournament. But another thing, you can look this up too on College Basketball Reference, but I just took it right here because, of course, I'm following it on Patreon and stuff. But yesterday was Kim Mulkey's 68th game with LSU. And look what she became. She became 60-8, another 68. And then I also got to point out how she stayed on a career of 112 losses. And that all comes together because the word mathematics equates to 112 and 68. And don't overlook that 40, just like how Kim Mulkey became 4-0 in championships, like LSU Tigers equals 40, which reminded me of Pistol Pete Maravich, how he died at the age of 40. And of course, they have a gymnasium named after him at LSU. He was an LSU Tiger. But, and then of course, the women's games being 40 minutes long. So, I mean, what an alignment for Kim Mulkey with mathematics. And what are we doing right now? Mathematics, right? Numbers, letters, changing numbers, or changing letters to numbers and then adding them up, just interesting. Anyways, so we got Black Lives Matter equates to 173. I got to put this out there because 173 is the 40th prime number, just to go along with mathematics and LSU Tigers. But I want to talk about 259 and 106 because I brought this up in my last video showing you how Dawn Staley got her 106 loss from Lisa Bluter, the opposing coach who was she coaches the Iowa Hawkeyes, right? And, just seeing the day that she was born, April 16th, is the 106th day of the year with 259 remaining. So what a perfect person to be in this game, talking about Black Lives Matter and you having a whole black team versus an all white team, right? And, just to prove it here, this was their starting five versus their starting five, and you can obviously see what the difference is, right? And yeah, so then Dawn Staley, being a black coach, she got her 106th loss from the coach who was born on the 106th day of the year. Come on. And then we all know what this always ties back to, right? Talking about the calendar, the date, the numbers, like where our language comes from, where our calendar comes from, the Catholic Church. So we know Pope Francis, his birthday, December 17th, from his previous birthday to yesterday was exactly 106 days. Or you can say it was 259 to his upcoming. Again, like Black Lives Matter. And, the black team wins, right? And so anyways, you got Society of Jesus also equating to 56, like Black Lives Matter. But you also got to remember the final score was 102 to 85, totaling 187 points, like Society of Jesus, 187. And, just a few more things here. LSU got recognized for scoring the most points in the first half in a Final Four, in the women's Final Four, or whatever. It says right here, LSU's 59 points is now the most scored in a women's Final Four in the first half. So, they got recognized for that. LSU Tigers equates to 59, just like Pope Francis equals 59. But here, this was my little halftime. Like, I already knew we were on the right track once I saw the halftime score. And what a halftime score it was, right? On the date 4-2. Okay, so it was 59-42. And we know what 59 is, like Rasta, slave, blues, equating to 59. But I mean, this is when I was kind of really even noticing it too. I was like, all right, I guess it really is black versus white in this tournament or this championship because of the players and such. But, and then we already knew Lisa Bluter's birthday and all of that. But then just even seeing that 59 plus 42 equates to 101, like Louisiana equals 101. I mean, that I just was really comfortable after seeing that. And then another thing too, since I brought up MLK and how Simone Augustus got her statue unveiled on his birthday, we've noticed this too since the WNBA season, just because there's a team called Atlanta Dream named after his dream speech. But just to point out too again that the dream speech is currently 59 years old because that happened August 28th, 1963. So just an interesting detail, and I feel like that's going to be really helpful this year with Atlanta Dream. But then, yeah, just seeing how they ended with 102 points, the most ever in a women's title game. All right, and this is what's just interesting, right? Like I know it's not Black History Month, but just knowing that Black History Month equates to 246, just like how America, the nation that we live in, is 246 years old right now. Just seems to be playing a significant role, just because, just think about Super Bowl 57 we just had, the first time ever with 2 black quarterbacks, right? And then just seeing what happened yesterday with the all-black team winning, and, on 4-2, like slavery equals 102, 102 points on 4-2, the N-word equals 42 and 102, and of course history equals 42. And, just can't overlook that. And which brings me to this page here where, recall, if you don't remember or if you weren't aware, but I tweeted and talked about this already since, December 8th, 2022. And this goes back to Brittany Griner. And Brittany Griner was the biggest 42 ritual of this past year. And I just got to show you that from her detainment date, this is why I'm saying she was the biggest 42 ritual. she was supposedly detained on February 17th of 22, and she came back to America on December 8th of 22. And if you look up Brittany Griner, type it in, Google it, Brittany Griner 294, that's all you're ever going to find is it was 294 days. 294 days. Nobody points out that it was exactly 42 weeks. I mean, I just feel like that's just a slap in the face to everybody, because nobody can just calculate that in their head unless they actually, did it like this to see that it was 42 weeks. That's important because Brittany Griner she wears number 42. She plays for Phoenix Mercury. But I mean, gosh, 42 is just all over her career. I've talked about it in the past, and like, I don't know how many videos ago, but it was even like 42 days after she got drafted, she got her first start in the WNBA. Like 42 stamped all over her. But anyways, the 42 is important to me too. This was in the back of my head ever since knowing that the women's championship was going to be held on 4-2. Obviously because 42. And another reason too is because of Kim Mulkey in her past, and how we know she coached at Baylor and she coached Brittany Griner. Like, that was her coach and that was her player, So yeah, it was just all right there in our face. But I mean, even just the mockery of Phoenix Mercury putting this tweet out. And earlier that day, I even had, because that news hit early in the morning, and I already knew We Are BG equals 128, a lot like the date December 8th. And then here, at the end of the evening, you have Phoenix Mercury tweeting out, "Of all days, especially today, #WeAreBG." And just just right here, how they even put out the date numerology for everybody that thinks all this stuff is crap and just numbers and BS. Even they put out the date numerology to show you it had date numerology of 42, and just how they put that, of all days, especially today. And what a joke. It really is. But it's all scripted and it all comes together, and that's what really helped me the most, was noticing the date 4-2. I was thinking Brittany Griner, she went to Baylor, and then I knew she played for Coach Mulkey, and then all from there. And then, but what I wasn't really expecting was to see all black versus all white. But I mean, anyways, that's how it happened, and it's no surprise. I mean, look how perfect it aligned with the Pope. It aligned with the Queen. It aligned with a former player, 2 former players, I guess, Simone Augustus and Brittany Griner. It aligned with Kim Mulkey having won the tournament 41 years ago, and this being held in Dallas, and Dallas is like 41 city. But yeah, I mean, this was the team. These were the characters that just you had to. Yeah, anyways. What a script, for sure. Anyways, I want to leave it there. See ya.